Michael Gavan, how's it going, man?
Very good, Gabe. Good to hear from you.
Yes, I am excited to get a chance to chat with you, another friend from Discord server. I know I've had
hmm
Jacob and the Meso Mamas on here, so I think you are the third podcast to come out of the Never Stop Chasing Discord server.
That's right. And you're interviewing all my favorite people.
You'll have to give me some tips on who I should bring on next after we're done.
Oh, absolutely. I've got lots of ideas for you.
So, my friend, we usually start off this podcast, as many people are aware, just by asking about some background from folks. So, if you'd like to start as far back as you want, and just let me know, how did you get into this crazy hobby, and what exactly inspired you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Michael Gavan. I've been a storm chaser officially, I would say, for the last 12 years. However, I can trace back my interest in weather all the way to me as a toddler. Certainly my earliest and most profound memories are actually of weather. So as early as like 2, 3 years old, I have memories of my dad hoisting me up on his shoulders while we're watching storms roll in off our back porch or from our back porch. And we'd watch storms rolling off the distance. And, some of those were some pretty epic derechos, it turns out, going back and digging into the history of them. From an early age, I remember my dad and I would go fishing specifically before big storms would roll in. And that's when the fish would bite the most. So yeah,
Is that like scientifically proven actually, or like a sort of like an old folk tale, or how does that work?
Well, I've heard stories, and I don't know if these are true, but there's something to do about low pressure systems rolling in that causes fish because they've got like a swim bladder that's got air in it, right? And it causes them to want to surface and feed and do that more right before storms roll in because of that low pressure system coming in. I think there's some science behind it, but yeah, maybe it's just, hey, the sky's dark.
No, that sounds like it. That sounds like it makes perfect sense. I hadn't actually connected the low pressure with the air bladders that they have, but that makes really good sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I've never actually tried to dig into that, and I probably should. I should do a video about that. Test those theories. But yeah, I think if you ask anybody that fishes, especially in the Midwest where I was living, that bad weather or incoming bad weather was always a really good time to fish. I remember one particular story. We knew there was bad weather coming. We went out to this private lake that we had access to, and I think we caught probably 24 bluegill. And it was a case where, you'd cast your line out. It wouldn't even be finished. The hook wouldn't even finish hitting the water. And you'd have a fish on, you'd reel that in, throw it in the boat. And you didn't want to stop fishing because they're hitting so well. And so we waited probably a little too long to go back to shore get the boat unloaded, get in the truck and start heading home. And we had this bad storm hit us. And we just get home, and we had these very, very large old growth trees in our yard in my childhood home. And one of these extremely tall trees, and I think these are over 100 foot, fell in the incoming windstorm and actually like destroyed the fence around our pool. Like the whole neighborhood was just devastated with these huge down trees, and made it in just in time as this was happening. And I think I was probably about 10 years old, but that was another one of those profound weather events that really got me interested in it. I remember after that event, just riding my bike around the neighborhood and looking at all the damage just in awe. I'd go to my friend's house to see, how many limbs they had down in their yard. Cool little things like that. But yeah, going from there, I mean, I have all these memories of watching the Weather Channel when I was a kid.
Team Local on the 8s right here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As I got home from school, other kids were putting MTV on, listening to Total Request Live. I was throwing Local on the 8s on and just snacking on pizza rolls.
Yeah, I'm sure you, like I, loved it when the red screen came on, and the white text, and we'll see. Who's this warning for? And but like for me too, it wasn't just the local stuff. It was like I meticulously tracked hurricanes. Like I think the first one I remember watching like every hour, every day while it was ongoing was Hurricane Gilbert, which I think that's 88. It's a long time ago. I was only 7 years old, and I remember watching Hurricane Gilbert, and being the kid I was so disappointed it didn't hit the U.S.
Yeah, as a kid, you're not really worried about all that the damage stuff and everything.
No,
That
no,
would have been so cool.
absolutely. I was just fascinated by weather. Do you remember the Weather Channel's The Enemy Wind?
No, refresh my memory on that.
Okay, so that one had a pretty big focus on the Andover, Kansas tornado.
Okay.
And it was one of those early TWC programs that covered tornado events and tornadoes. And it happened just on the heels of the Andover Tornado Day. So they had lots of great footage. They covered, storm evolution and how damage is created. Like, they had those, I remember the 2x4 cannon. They would launch that at a wall and see what kind of damage it would do. and that's when I was introduced to storm chasers and Howie Bluestein in particular. And so I can point to that program being like my first introduction to storm chasers and storm chasing. And like at this time, I didn't have any aspirations like, oh, I want to do that. I was just fascinated by these people that would do this. And fast forward a couple of years later, that's when Twister came out. And so I'm part of that Twister generation that, really early on, I think I was 15 years old when that came out. So I was at a particularly young age. And Twister had a profound impact on me. But I also remember, because I saw that movie, I think the day it came out, I was with my dad, again, my dad's been a big part of, pushing me into this whole weather hobby. And I remember us like picking apart the movie as we're watching it for the first time. It's like, they didn't issue tornado warnings that early. Like, oh, that would never happen. Or, oh yeah, that cow is going to fly by one way and fly back the other way, but do nothing to their truck. So we're just picking apart. Love the movie. Absolutely love the movie. But yeah, like even at 15 years old, I'm like, oh, this is all bogus. This isn't how this happens.
Oh man, you must have been amazing at parties.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody loves me. But no, I
Team Bill or Team Jonas, by the way.
Team Bill, absolutely, all the way.
Okay.
Although
there's a growing subset of people on Twitter who they claim that Jonas was actually the hero. He did nothing wrong. I don't know how. Wrong. Yeah, I don't know how accurate that is, but there is a. I don't know if they're just trying to be weather edgelords, but there is a growing group of people I've seen on Twitter who seem to believe that.
I don't know, man. Jonas, he didn't have any instincts.
Yeah, this is true.
No, Team Bill all the way. I'm the guy who would probably throw a Jack Daniels bottle into a tornado if I could.
I could see that just from what I've met of you so far.
Oh yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a crazy streak, but I didn't really actually get into storm chasing myself until much later. It was really in 2010, and that was after a couple seasons of Storm Chasers on Discovery Channel. And it wasn't until like I had no aspirations of chasing. I had been out to go, see weather. I'd go to Lake Michigan and watch storms roll in. But the idea of like going out to the plains and deliberately attempting to see a tornado just never occurred to me. Like that was just something like only certain people were able to do. And it was because they were so good at their hobby or what they do. But then I saw Storm Chasers and it kind of turned into this like, hey, this is actually kind of an everyman thing. But more so like, I was one of the earliest people to get a smartphone and realizing, wait, I could have internet in the car while I'm out. I could get radar. And I kind of called up my brother one day and I'm like, do you think we could do this? And so all along too, my older brother, Sean, he had a lot of similar stories with weather and, having that influence from our dad. But yeah, it was Sean and I together decided, hey, let's just go storm chasing. And the day we decided to do our first ever storm chase was May 24, 2010. Okay. Or is that May 22, Bowdle Day.
Did you actually get to see it?
I was on the storm. We were on the storm, but we didn't know what we were doing. So we started the day very out of position. I think Bowdle was on the ground and we were down in Mitchell, South Dakota. And so we had 2 hours of driving to get there. There was a little EF2 tornado that we saw near Ipswich. Watched that for a couple of minutes and it was like, okay, I guess we're done. We didn't know what we were doing. We got hit by a squall line really bad and, limped our way back to a hotel after that day. But we didn't realize, we knew that there was a good tornado that day that had happened, but we didn't realize what kind of a legend we had just missed until, time went by and realized, wow, I wish we were good at this. And I had no idea how to forecast for tornadoes. We were SPC chasers. Like there's some green and brown on the map. Let's go check it out. But a couple weeks later, I had started to actually look at weather models and I was learning what bulk shear and CAPE and all this stuff really meant and how that was displayed on a map. So I think it was June 10th, the Streeter, Illinois tornado day. Maybe it was June 5th. But this was just a couple weeks later. We got 3 tornadoes that day, on a day when a lot of other people missed tornadoes. And, I falsely thought I was actually good at this now.
Good old Dunning-Kruger effect. I've been there many times.
You got it. I was so far into that valley. But yeah, it was cool to go from, not knowing at all what I was doing to at least being able to try, know enough to try, and at least get some success. And funny enough, I didn't see another tornado for 2 more years. It wasn't until Roselle, in fact. And that's kind of been my chase career, is seeing a handful of very legendary days and otherwise just being bad at this.
I think a lot of people would be fine with that, though. I mean, the hit rate on seeing tornadoes is low enough as it is. If the ones you are seeing are some of the more legendary ones, then I think most people would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Absolutely. And really hasn't been until the last couple of years that I've been able to, spread my wings and, really go see, really chase anything, not everything, but chase anything, and that's been kind of a nice change. And, I see a lot more tornadoes now. It's like I never feel like I'm good at this. And I don't know if that's just my attitude or if I'm, it just always feels like, wow, I could have done that better. Every time I'm out doing a chase, even when I get tornadoes, like there's just this, oh man, I should have been in that position. I should have been over there photographing from that area. So I never feel like I'm ever going to be good at this. And that makes me more motivated. Like I'm going to be even better next year or the year after.
It is tough to quantify too. As far as hobbies go, there's not, I think, a clear line of demarcation between bad and good as there would be with a lot of other things. I could quantify if I was good at Fortnite or not. I could quantify if I was good at sewing because people buy my stuff that I make. It's really tough to, especially since you don't always get a ton of opportunities. The longer you have between opportunities can really exacerbate how it feels when you fail. So it is interesting to think about, what would constitute a good storm chaser versus a bad one. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It is difficult to quantify. I mean, you can, share tornado stats with each other, or what days you were on or weren't on, or what tornadoes you saw, but it's really subjective. And, recently I was on the Morton tornado and only a handful of people saw Morton. However, I probably had the most distant view you could possibly have of Morton and still say you saw that tornado. So like there,
you had the structure shot. That's the way to look at it. You had the structure shot.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. Sure. We'll go with that. No, just being way out of position and just being there just in time to see it, and being away from the dust that day. I got to see that tornado, but then, it's like, wow, look at me. I'm good at this. And then you see the pictures coming in from Twitter, and it's like, holy crap. I can't believe people got those shots. And, that's just how it is sometimes. It's like, sometimes even when you feel like you succeeded, you still feel like you failed. And so that makes this hobby really interesting in that way. And yeah, there's always room for growth. And so I don't think I could ever get bored of this.
Now, do you keep the pre-storm fishing tradition alive, or is that something that you just don't really have time for now with your new understanding of forecasting that you developed over the years?
I just don't do that much fishing anymore. But I've also moved out of the Midwest. I'm in Colorado now. So the dynamic out here is completely different. We don't have those big storms that roll in, and the hot, humid days that you'd look for in the Midwest. Out here, there is, I'm sure, like some relationship between what the weather is doing or what type of season you're in and how the fish behave. But I haven't done enough fishing out here to really get a good grasp of that. I do love fishing. I just don't do it as much as I probably want to or should.
What did cause you to move out there from the Midwest?
Well, that's a great story. So initially, I had moved myself and my family out to South Dakota, chasing not storms, but job prospects. And so I moved to Sioux Falls for more money. I was doing the same job, but I had this opportunity to go work out on the plains, doing what I was already doing. And that would increase my chances for chasing. So chasing was a major factor in making the decision to move to South Dakota. Well, a couple of years later, I kind of got marooned out there. The main customer that I was serving in Sioux Falls no longer needed me. So I had to up our family again. And this time we chose Colorado, and for a lot of the same reasons, being out on the plains. But now it's like, hey, there's a lot more opportunities to, do some of the other things that I love, like hiking and backpacking and kayaking and that sort of stuff, fishing. So we moved out to Colorado again. This time the family was really behind it. Sioux Falls, it was kind of like, not sure about this.
Colorado is between the two places. Yeah.
Yeah. There was 6 thumbs up when we, when we decided to move.
I don't think I've ever met a person who regretted moving to Colorado. I think it's like, without fail, it is the one location where anyone I've talked to who moved there has either lamented that they had to leave or is so satisfied that they don't ever want to go anywhere else.
Right. Yeah. I don't see myself wanting to move anywhere else from here. However, I do have aspirations. Me and my wife, we have aspirations to, kind of go with the camper life from here. Like, where do you go from Colorado is a great question. And I think the only thing that we can do from here is like, hey, let's do the thing where we live nowhere and live everywhere.
You can live in every Colorado around the U.S. basically. So you can just go to all of them.
Yeah. If, catch me in Alaska in August or, Mexico in February or whatever, and points in between in the spring when the storms are rolling across the plains, I'll be in the right place.
I wonder, can you chase in an RV?
Well, Dusty did, didn't he?
Yeah, this is true. Dusty did. So,
well, I don't think I'd want to do that, but maybe have a chase vehicle or a vehicle that I would use for chasing towed behind the RV, and find a campground that's hopefully to the west of the dry line and nice and high and dry, to pick a place to camp, and then unhook that car and go chase for the day, and then be back that night. No hotels to worry about. Just go chase and be back home. And home is wherever you decide it is the night before.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be one of the best ways to live. I'm down with that.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be amazing.
So let's get into a little bit more of your chasing experience. Now that we've got your background laid out, what would you say is your most influential chase that you've ever been on? For any reason, could be the strongest tornado, could just be your first chase even. What has been the one that you think you look back on and say to yourself, like, this is probably the one I remember the most? So
there are candidates, but I think there's one that absolutely floats to the top, and that's going to be Simla. I guess influential doesn't go any harder than I literally live now 45 minutes away from Simla.
Hunter Folks I had on the podcast, and this was his choice as well. So seems like a lot of people really, really believe this tornado was just an incredible experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was 8 tornadoes or more, depending on, who you ask. But that was such a wonderful sequence. They were gorgeous, tall tornadoes under beautiful structure. They were slow moving, so you could get close. And they lasted so long. I mean, more than any other tornadoes that I've seen, some of the ones in the Simla sequence are just burned into my brain. Like I just crave seeing that once again. And it's a reason why I liked days like Lockheck, where, they were slow moving, you get close. They were beautiful, tall and dusty. That's the classic tornado. That's the type of tornado I like. And, I'm always going to make that comparison back to, that was like Simla or one of the tornadoes on Simla Day. But yeah, they were gorgeous to photograph, gorgeous to be there. Also, it just so happens back then there was still a lot of people were streaming to the old TVN platform. And I remember one of the moderators, I was the only person, me and my brother, I should say, we were the only people streaming the Simla storm. And there were thousands of people watching that stream. And I remember one of the moderators messaging me and saying, "You nearly broke our platform."
That's pretty badass.
So I'm almost, for a lot of people, I'm even the face of Simla, the Sean and I being the ones there that day. So that was very cool. Very cool.
I'm trying with every ounce of my being to not go full meme mode with my, same supercell, same tornado proclamation that I've made in the past. I've had this discussion with so many people, but I will ask you though about the hail that happened on that day, because I heard from a few people that it was pretty intense if you found yourself in the notch. So were you able to stay away from that?
Well, because initially we were able to be in the notch, and the notch was fairly clean. We were fairly far east for the first couple of tornadoes. There was a rope tornado and then a a larger stovepipe. And while those were going on, we were able to stay out of the hail. We were still far enough east. But then as the storm approached us, it started to spit out these anticyclonic tornadoes. And so we ended up getting south of those. So we stayed southeast of the mesocyclone most of the time. And, we were getting both tornadoes in our shot, and we were very close to the anticyclonic one. And so we were literally there next to the, I don't know if you've seen the I think it's 2015 National Geographic photo of the year is the shot of the anticyclonic Simla tornado. We were right there getting video of that in that same position. I'm pretty sure, in fact, in our stream, you see that photographer as we drive by. But it was an anticyclonic tornado, but the dust that it was kicking up was doing a double helix up and around that tornado. And it was just a beautiful shot. And one of my favorite shots from that day.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. It's like a strand of DNA straight up into the sky.
You got it. So and so that being there when that happened, and then seeing that be the photo of the year on National Geographic just blows my mind. Like, who can say that, that they were there when that happened, when that photo was shot? Like, it's so, you just feel like you're among a very small group of people in a big world.
Where can myself and the listeners, where can we check out some of your footage from that day?
All right. Well, that's a great segue, actually. So I run a small YouTube channel called Science Out There. And this is a earth science and astronomy channel where basically it's all of my interests just kind of compiled into various science education videos that I produce for YouTube. And among that are some storm chasing related content. A lot of the better storm chases that I've been on a lot of the better storm chases I've been on are published there. So you can check out many of the tornadoes that I've seen. And if I get the chance to, suppose a particular event happens, like this year we had Elgin, Texas. And I cover how we saw that coming from 10 days away, that, models were seeing this 10 days out, and how it was a, synoptically driven tornado evident event. We saw that coming from so far out. We executed on exactly where we thought tornadoes, were going to be, and then got into that position and saw them. And so it's like, here's a video laid out, like here's from 10 days out, looking at global models up to the very day, we practically had it down to the county, and recorded the footage of it and published that to YouTube. So that's an example.
I'm going through all the videos right now. I had no idea you had so much different varied content on this channel. This is really cool.
Yeah, it's really varied content. I mean, it doesn't exactly lend well on YouTube, on the platform, because YouTube, content consumers, they want to see like the same thing basically with maybe some little variations, but they want to basically, I'm not a full-time 100% storm chasing channel because that's very seasonal and it's not my only interest. So I try to just spread the year out with a lot of different things that I do. It might be some sort of outdoor activity I'm doing, like backpacking, or it might be an astrophotography related thing that I want to do.
That's what I was going to say, is I see a lot of astrophotography here, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. I notice a lot of people in the storm chasing community are into that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, when you get a lot of expensive camera gear for storm chasing, a lot of people just will wake up one day and is like, what? All I have to do is, buy these extra parts, and now I can do astrophotography or some other hobby. So you see a lot of storm chasers that either come from these hobbies and get into storm chasing, or they start out in storm chasing and then branch out to some of these other hobbies. And I'm no different. And so I try to, produce content all year and hope that, some eyes will see it and appreciate it. And I've gained a little bit of a following over the years, and hope to continue that and hope to reach more people.
Well, I'll tell you what I like the most hearing your story here about the YouTube channel is that it sounds to me like you are making content that you like yourself. You're not trying to make content that will target just a specific audience just so you get clicks and views. And just in my own experience, I've dipped my toes in a lot of different waters over my lifetime. And it seems like the ones that always have some sort of lasting value are the ones where I'm doing what I like to do, not where I'm trying to do what I think other people are going to give me attention or clicks or whatever else for. So it's cool to see that you've got, basically your hobbies and your interests, and you've got a small and dedicated following that's really into all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's great advice for anybody that wants to get into content creation. Be absolutely sure it's something you love to do. Otherwise, if you try to pretend to be this particular personality or produce this particular type of content, and you don't necessarily love that or love that so much that you can engage and do that over and over and over again for years, you're going to get burnt out on it, or you're going to get bored, and your audience is going to know before you do that that's happening. So, be true to yourself and do what you love to do. And I'm hoping, that I can continue to do this for years, even decades. If I'm going to get into this RV life thing,
you have a lot of content opportunities with that.
You got it, man. There's so much stuff that I could be doing that I'd love to be able to do. It could be something like, going back to Big Bend for a week during a meteor shower and documenting all that and producing content, or, visiting the volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest and climbing some mountains. Being flexible and being able to be anywhere in the country, doing something I love to do, and then just making something as high production value as I can, as I'm capable of, throwing it on YouTube and seeing if there's some people out there that can appreciate that. But yeah, I'm just going to do it because I love to do it. And if people want to hop on board, then welcome.
Now, before we go back to tornadoes, I have to ask about the survival aspect of this channel, because I see in the banner it says survival. What kind of cool stuff do you do with that? It's like a Bear Grylls type stuff.
Well, it's kind of like really lightweight. Like I've done videos where I've gone to, by myself, really remote corners of northern Canada and spent 3 nights out, on my own, limited amount of food, kayak, and a tent.
Cool.
And I'll go out and fish and try to, collect dinner. And otherwise, I'm just, in the elements. And and I like to combine other things I enjoy with this. Like I might do something like that during a meteor shower, or when I'm expecting there to be a geomagnetic storm and there's going to be northern lights. So like one of my favorite videos is one where I go up into Nopaming and paddle up a river a few miles. And then a storm rolls in, and I got to very quickly put together a camp. And it's bad weather the whole time. But then one of the nights, the clouds clear, it gets really cold, sky darkens, and northern lights are just filling the sky, and there's wolves howling away. And
beautiful.
It is the most visceral experience and surreal feeling, being up at 2 a.m., surrounded by howling wolves, watching the northern lights. I recommend it. Everyone should try that if they're crazy enough.
No, that's awesome. And I just hope you never combine the survival and the storm chasing together, because that means you're in a pretty rough spot. So
yeah, that's I don't know. I might be crazy enough to try something. Let's see.
Well, on that note, let's talk about some of the more extreme weather events that you've witnessed. Doesn't even necessarily have to be a tornado. I know you said you're into hurricanes as well. I haven't asked yet if you chase those, but what would you say is the most intense weather that you've actually been exposed to?
I've been in some pretty sick derechos in the Midwest, and those are crazy. It's one thing to see a tornado in the distance, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, there's a tornado there, and it's doing damage. But when you're inside that whale's mouth of a 100+ mile an hour windstorm, and trees are bending over 90 degrees, and you just feel like you're going to fly away. I really love that intensity. Now, I've never chased hurricanes, and the thing that I equate it to is like, take that experience, but just make it last 6 hours.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I may try that. In fact, maybe this year will be the year. I do want to at least give it a shot, chasing a hurricane for the first time. Probably the sketchiest weather situation I've ever been in was the Spearman Texas Tornado in 2016. Me and my chase partner, his name is CJ. This was our first time chasing together, and we were really struggling with this storm because we were not out east of it like we should have been. We came from the west, and here's a mesocyclone that's hugging a canyon, and there's a road that takes you, on the north side of the rim of this canyon. It's the Canadian River Valley. In fact, there's a mesocyclone on one side, road, and canyon on the other. So we're trying really hard to thread the needle, and something happened with my GPS. I had the GR level 2 with the GPS thing at the time. I wasn't using radar scope or anything like that. And something happened with the GPS. I don't know if it was just because we were underneath, 60,000 feet of cloud or whatever. And it we weren't getting signal. But the GPS showed me about 4 miles away from where we actually were. And
man.
And of course, this spot had already been hit. You got to understand, the storm has just been sitting here and producing tornadoes. And already there's been tornadoes and some huge RFD cuts that have come across this road. So there's power lines down, and we're trying our best to weave around power lines and power poles to get ourselves east, translate out ahead of the storm. And it's slowing us down. And the thing decides, you know what? I'm going to produce a nice big tornado right here, right on top of you. And so there's my 0 meter story. Seeing those curtains of rain, had the ears popping, the curtains of rain that were in front of us, going, south to north, and behind us going, north to south. And the wind was, easily 115 miles an hour. I remember CJ at one point, he needed to do something. So he opened the door of the truck, and mud came flying up from the shoulder and hit the roof of the car. So like there was lift, and we're feeling this SUV, like hop along above the pavement, like all right, we got to get out of here. So we hightail it back west. And then at this point, we were seeing all these little spin ups, the little the small vortices that sometimes you see inside of this thing, seeing those just dancing all around us. And oh man, that was so scary. But we got out of it. We were safe, albeit very high heart rate and unable to catch our breath. And we were with like 3 or 4 other chasers that basically had the same thing happen to them. And we looked at each other with dinner plate eyes, like, holy crap, what have we just done? So that was a big
chunky boy tornado too. I'm looking at the pictures on Google right now. That was no joke.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it produced several tornadoes. I'm not sure which one we were in. Unfortunately, the timestamps are all off on my video, so it's hard to tell. And we really couldn't tell, at what point where we were. It's hard to get oriented, as to what the tornado looks like or what's going on when you're inside of the damn thing.
I would imagine so. Not the best vantage point.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
So were there any life flashing before your eyes moments? Was it that scary, or did you feel pretty confident that you were going to make it out okay?
I think for me and for my chase partner, both of us were just in like instant, we need to get out of here. We need to survive this mode. So it was just, we had a very intense, we're going to get out of here. Like there wasn't any like fear for our life or life flashing before our eyes. It was just, we need to get out of here. And when we did, there was that time to cool down and breathe and, process what had just happened. And, the most I can say at that point is like, I need to learn from this mistake. I don't want to ever experience that again. I've got, so it was more like a regretful feeling and a lament that like, I need to improve. We need to get better. I can't have my GPS failing. I can't, so, there are technology changes that we needed to make, and, approaches that we needed to do differently, or that I needed to do differently in the future to prevent that from happening. And it has changed a little bit how I approach certain chases. If you're stuck between a rock and a hard place like this, or a mezzo and a valley, don't take that road, find another route,
So just from what I remember you explaining earlier, was it that you were trying to beat the tornado to a certain location and then bail to the east to get out ahead of it, and you just weren't able to get to that location as quick as you wanted to get there?
Well, it was an extremely limited road network. It's mostly ranch land in that area, so there's just a couple of roads. So you had the choice to either go way, way north of the storm and north and then south and back around and cut through a lot of precip to do that, which would have taken a very long time, or you could try and get lucky and shortcut your way down this due east-west road that rode the north rim of the Canadian River Valley. So that was the one option. And we tried to take that. And the storm, just being as weird as it was, kept back building and just sitting there and producing tornadoes over the same location over and over. Probably had a lot to do with the orographic lift that was coming off the valley. In fact, I'm almost certain that was part of the reason it was happening. So that was part of the learning experience too, is just knowing, that if that's going to happen, gosh darn, be well east of the storm to begin with. Don't be stuck behind it. So yeah.
Were you still able to get some good footage out of it?
No, I didn't get any good footage out of it, other than my dash cam footage, which just shows, 1 minute, there's spin ups around us and there's that wall of rain, and then us bailing the heck out of there and dodging power lines. It didn't exactly make for good content, so I never published anything with that. But yeah, that was, I mean, the experience is documented, but it's not one that I like reliving.
Fair enough. I was going to say there's definitely a market for that though, as the Meso Mamas have recently proved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They learned the 0 meter thing, how that feels, and it's not fun. So yeah,
definitely a little scary. So it seems like that's I don't know. I don't know if that's becoming more common nowadays, or if it's just that there's more people doing it. So through sheer volume, we're just seeing it happen more often.
I think it's a mix of both. I think there are a handful of people that are deliberately trying to get too close. I think there are a few people that are accidentally getting too close, and then there's just more people out there. So it's definitely a mix of stuff. I'm not going to judge other people who are trying to or accidentally getting in that situation, because I, for one, I've been there. It's I'm not going to be the one to cast any judgment. I take this situation as whenever this happens, is like, let's just all learn from the mistake and move on, and we'll do better next time. But I mean, for those people that are going out of their way to try to get hit by tornadoes or get way too close, well, I don't know, probably not a good idea. Probably shouldn't be doing that, but they're getting some pretty sick footage too. So
yeah, I was going to
say so I can't say I'm not jealous.
Right on. Well, the last question I like to in these podcasts with is, what is your favorite area to chase? And you've been chasing quite some time. So is there a specific portion of the country where when you see that there's going to be storms in that area coming up, you definitely get a little more excited than usual?
It's definitely going to be Western Kansas. Especially those areas around, north of Garden City, and then east towards Great Bend. Like, that chunk of territory is so perfectly flat for the most part, treeless. It's beautiful terrain. But there's great road network out there. Some of it even doesn't want to swallow you up with mud. But I've got some great memories of past tornado events from that area. Roselle in particular. That was just a wonderful day. It falls a close second, I think, behind Simla for me. But that is definitely a chase that I would love to relive and love to see, an area that I'd love to see tornadoes in. However, having lived in Sioux Falls for a while, eastern South Dakota, man, if it only could get more tornadoes, that would be the most epic place on the planet to chase storms, because it's a lot of the same thing.
I was out there a couple of years ago. I loved it.
Oh man, that grid, it's all, hard packed gravel, and it's one, mile by mile grid forever. If there could be more chases up there, man, that would be great. But for now, given how many more tornadoes happen in Kansas versus South Dakota, it's got to be west central Kansas for me all the way.
So is that around like the Leote, Colby area like that?
Yes, and yes, all of that, all that. yeah, man, it's so funny. 2021 teased us so bad. I think I did, I don't know, even in the fall, I think I probably did about a dozen chases, it seems like, in that area last year. And I don't have any tornadoes to show for it. It was always those days like, well, there Selden was happening up north, but there's 3 beautiful supercells to the south that should have produced tornadoes and just didn't. But yeah, I've been very teased the last couple of years with that choice terrain, choice area that I love, not producing tornadoes, at least not when I'm there. So I've been kind of bummed.
It's coming. I can feel it.
It's coming. All
right, Michael. Well, if you could let the listeners know one last time where they can find your work at, name of your YouTube channel, Twitter account, that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And they have the same name. You can find me on YouTube, Science Out There. You can find me on Twitter. It's @ScienceOutThere. Hop on this ride, and I'll keep producing content and updating you on all my latest exploits. So come follow along.
Thank you very much, my friend. And to all the listeners, we'll be back again next week. Take care.
Gabe, thank you so much for having me. Thanks, everybody.